Here we are on the fourth day. We count, like, even though it was just Sunday evening, we count that as day one. The fourth day of Sesshin. So, how's everybody feeling? I can see the zendo is beautiful. It is so clean here, which is wonderful because this is a sacred space here, right? So it's good to keep it clean. I have been reading this book here and really enjoying it. Zenju Earthlyn Manuel's book called The Shamanic Bones of Zen, revealing the ancestral spirit and mystical heart of a sacred tradition. Ancestral spirit and mystical heart of a sacred tradition. I think that's pretty cool, right? Really cool, because it really, it honors the indigenous roots of Zen, all the way from India, China, and then merging with Shinto. I mean, not merging, but being affected by Shintoism in Japan. So she talks about the shamanic path as well, which I do not know that much about shamanic path, but it's interesting because she's a shaman, and she has, let's see here, some definitions of the origin of the word, if I can find it. She says that, here, it came from the Tungus language of ancient Mongolia, the word shaman. And the root of the word shaman originates from saman, which means to know, but not to know in an intellectual process, which we're really good at in the West, but this is not the origin of the word, right? It's to know the spirit of things, of people, of life. The nature of the unseen world behind our physical world, what we cannot see and what we cannot hear. And yet in Zen, you know, we're kind of yearning for this, to be able to see the unseen and to hear the what can't be heard, and yet knowing that that yearning is a problem right there as well. And entomologists have also noted that this Tungus word may have come from the Chinese word for Buddhist monk, shaman, via the Sanskrit shramana. So that's interesting. You know, Zenju says, does not a shaman deal with birth, illness, old age, and death? Is not a shaman a bodhisattva, a spiritual warrior who offers their life to help the sufferer, and the sufferer commit to walking alongside the shaman for well-being? I think that's what priests do. We're working with the suffering and having them walk with us. We're trying to ease suffering in the world. Anyway, that's what I try to do. So in essence, there is this, this trying to get closer to nature and closer to who we really are. I mean, who are we, right? Shikan had a very nice explanation about how we can grasp onto this self. But what is, who am I, June? Who is this person? Well, I think I know, but then I don't really. A lot of conditioning, a long life of conditioning. 72 this year. So she sees the Zen forms as being shamanic in terms of bringing us closer to nature and closer to who we really are. That's our practice here. And she's saying that the stillness of body and mind is a different kind of consciousness than that of our everyday busy lives. So Zazen, she says, is a portal. It's really a ritual. And when you look at it, yeah, I mean, we're setting up this beautiful zendo. There are certain ways that we are in this sacred space, beginning with entering, right? We bow. So notice how you bow. Is it like, I mean, let's see, can we kind of really enjoy and appreciate this embodied form of bowing? We're not thinking about getting to our seat, but we're entering into the sacred. And at Tassajara, the Suzuki Roshi tradition, they walk in with their left foot over the threshold first, the left foot. So that's interesting, right? It's kind of helping you to pay attention. You're entering, you're crossing a threshold into maybe more ordinary life than what we're used to. And then we bow to our seat. And she had a beautiful, so it's not just bowing to our own awakened nature, but it's to all of our ancestors who came before us. We are honoring and grateful and being that in our body, embodied. And then we turn around and we bow to all the beings in the world that we are inextricably linked and connected to, again, with gratitude. And then we sit, we actually still our bodies, something that we hardly ever do in our 24 hours of our regular life, right? We're just doing, do things, gotta do things, gotta do things. So what a gift it is to just sit and notice your posture. And notice, if you make a little adjustment, is it easier to breathe? Just notice, maybe you're having a hard time breathing. Just notice, don't have to fix anything. You're just sitting and just being with whatever is there. Za means sitting, Zen means meditation. Zazen, sitting meditation. And Shunryu Suzuki said, there's no goal in mind or effort to improve one's personality. He said, Zazen is the direct experience of our life. It's the direct experience of our life. So Zazen is a portal, like any ritual. So Zenju also says that, I loved how she said, Zazen is a prolonged ritual of seeing and hearing. You're really slowing down your body so that you can see, perhaps, the unseen, or hear what you cannot hear. And we slow down so much so that what is going on in our bodies cannot be overlooked. And we know that that can be difficult. But our practice is bearing witness to uncomfortableness that might arise, right? Not turning away, what Roshi said, it's good, we're not turning away from what is arising in our experience. And then we are letting go of the mind forms, the ideas and the thoughts that arise, just letting it go. That's our big practice of letting go. That was Roshi's thing too, is letting go, right? Letting go is such a big practice. We're so attached to our certain ways of thinking, our habits. We hate to give them up for some reason. So, this Zazen is aligned to ancient meditations of indigenous medicine people, right? Their training is to sit for long periods of time. Sit still on the earth and be silent. This is a way to get in touch with the earth and with our true nature. So this sacred space is our sanctuary. It's a safe place. She says Zen is for those who thrive on the intangible, the ambiguous, the amorphous, and the infinite. We are stars forever suspended in nowhere. And this is what makes Zen appear difficult or strange to some people, to many people, because you really can't see Zen. You can only experience it after some time of walking on the path. And she says that although mindfulness can be a gateway to Zazen, the difference in her experience is in Zazen, there's no checking in with the mind. Like mindfulness, you're always checking, right? You're focusing on the moment and, okay, how do I feel? What's going on, right? So in Zen, there's just no checking in. You're just breathing. You are the breath. You're kind of going beyond the discursive mind, which we just love. Or maybe we just, we're just like, we don't know what to do with it. It's just there all the time. So that's why we call it a practice, right? Just practice seeing it, letting it go, seeing it, letting it go. And I know we teach in our foundations class, it's not about not thinking also, because we do have to think clearly. And I feel Zazen really helps us to think clearly. Right. So Zazen has been passed down through many generations, right? From Shakyamuni Buddha all the way to us. And I wanted to read Dogen, who wrote this, was one of, I think, the first fascicle he wrote in his Shobogenzo, called Fukan Zazenji. And I know we'll share it online because I want to read this together. Dogen's Fukan Zazenji on how to sit. And Zenju's teacher was Blanche Hartman, who during Ango, she said they would chant this every day. Looks like we have a delivery, thank you. So let's chant the Fukan Zazenji together. Chant or read, I guess. Read it together. I guess not chant, read. For Sanzen, a quiet room is suitable. Eat and drink moderately. Cast aside all involvements and cease all affairs. Do not think good or bad. Do not administer pros and cons. Cease all the movements of the conscious mind, the gauging of all thought and views. Have no designs on becoming a Buddha. Sanzen has nothing whatever to do with sitting or lying down. At the side of your regular sitting, spread out thick matting and place a cushion above it. Sit either in the full lotus or half lotus position. In the full lotus position, you first place your right foot on your left thigh and your left foot on your right thigh. In the half lotus, you simply press your left foot against your right thigh. You should have your robe and belt loosely bound and arranged in order. Then place your right hand on your left leg and your left palm facing upward on your right palm, thumb tips touching. Thus, sit upright in correct bodily posture, neither inclining to the left nor to the right, neither leaning forward nor backward. Be sure your ears are on a plane with your shoulders and your nose in line with your navel. Place your tongue against the front roof of your mouth with teeth and lips both shut. Your eyes should always remain open, and you should breathe gently through your nose. Once you have adjusted your posture, take a deep breath, inhale and exhale. Rock your body right and left and settle into a steady, immovable sitting position. Think, not thinking. How do you think of not thinking? Non-thinking. This in itself is the essential art of Zazen. The Zazen I speak of is not learning meditation. It is simply the Dharma gate of repose and bliss, the practice realization of totally culminated enlightenment. So I haven't seen many people be able to sit in full lotus or even half lotus. So sitting in a chair is absolutely allowed. He wrote this, I believe, when he just returned from China. He was there for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years studying with a Chinese Zen master because he was just not getting what he needed in Japan. So he traveled the long route to China by sea. I think it took like a month. And he found a teacher there to study with. And this is what he wrote when he got back. So yeah, I love that, right? Get your body in the posture, which is same on the chair. And I like this also. Actually, I've been sitting this way with I think it's called the Universal Mudra, something like that, on my lap here. Thumbs lightly touching as if you were holding a piece of rice paper. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm getting this, ooh, right there. Okay. So we've talked about, maybe you've heard the word kensho before, and Zenju has a very wonderful definition of kensho, and that's seeing one's nature. And kensho simply refers to the moment that one discovers or knows something for oneself directly and experientially, rather than through the description of others. So it's really being intimate with your own experience here. And Dogen called kensho a dropping away of body and mind, a dropping away of body and mind. So I wanted to speak briefly about the rituals that we do here, the Buddhist services that we do. We do every morning, we do 3. But even before we do the services, right, we are ringing the Densho bell. And I was thinking, because what it's doing is it's actually clearing, you know, those beautiful rhythmic sounds, is clearing the space for the service, the energy of the space. And we used to have a han. I wish we had one because we used to hit the han, which was a wooden thing, right before the major blocks of sitting. So it, in essence, it was calling everybody to the sitting. And it was that same pattern on the Densho. And I was thinking we should just hit the Densho to announce the Zazen, because it's clearing the space for Zazen as well, getting the ritual ready. of sitting, just sitting, just sitting. Words, I tell you, is wonderful, and then they can be kind of falling short. And then what do? We bow. Bowing. That's such an embodied practice. I mean, I guess you could think, but why think? You're just going to bow, right? Your body is doing this wonderful act of humility. There are some ceremonies that we have where, you do 108 bows a day. I think this is a great practice for those of us who, need to practice humility. And then, there's the rituals of the beautiful bells and going up to the altar and offering incense. Offerings are wonderful, right? To the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, who is the Bodhisattva of compassion, or of the Buddha. And we have a number of beautiful altars around the center that, it would be great to, when you walk by, a bow toward the altar would be a very nice thing to do, kind of a mindfulness thing again of the ancestors. We're respecting the ancestors. We're grateful for their love and their teachings. I know when we were doing service today, I was trying to really be mindful instead of just being rote and just saying, especially all those names, right? The sick list and the death list. I was trying to be really mindful so it would not be a mindless act of chanting. And I noticed at the end of that, I felt so sad after the death list. It just seems like it's getting longer, but that's what bodhisattvas do, right? We bear witness to sadness. And then we have those beautiful chants, the Heart Sutra, both in English and in Japanese. And when we chant in Japanese, we can't really think because we don't know what they mean, right? So then that's really an embodied act. We're just chanting. And in fact, I remember Roshi, telling the story of in the early days of Zen Center of Los Angeles, right? All of the priests, they would be asking Maizumi Roshi, what does this mean? What are we chanting? What does this mean? And he would say to them, just chant, just chant. It's the energy of the syllables, the words, that is kind of it's very embodied. But I don't know, some people may be kind of not at ease with rituals, So an interesting question that she poses is, you should ask yourself, do you feel controlled by the rituals, or are they leading you in silence to the place of compassion and insight? And Zenju is saying, in her experience, they are a profound part of her life, and that they fuel through, because it's really a group kind of interconnective activity that we are doing in this ceremony. It's just a communal sharing of oneself as part of the prayer, and as a devotee awakening with others doing this. She says to think of yourself doing it alone and how perfect or imperfect you are overshadows the act of being. In being, the role of the rituals and the ceremony can bring you closer to the source by which your life came into being. Let me read that again. To think of yourself doing it alone and how perfect or imperfect you are overshadows the act of being. In being, the role of the rituals and the ceremony can bring you closer to the source by which your life came into being. So we've been a little relaxed in our Zendo during Sesshin. I notice we talk and, and maybe we need to be a little bit more mindful. I guess we're just happy to be in this sacred space, which is not bad also, right? Especially now, it's so fantastic. But it is a place of refuge for us, which is good. And it doesn't mean you have to be a certain way in here. But mindful is definitely one, aware of what you're doing so you are really appreciating the energy of this space and the energy that you bring to it. So that's the shamanic bones of Zen. I've been listening to her on Upaya too, give a series of 3 talks about this book. The next one is coming up on the last Sunday of this month at 12, I think, 12 o'clock. And enjoying them a lot. She's a longtime Zen practitioner, and she chose her teacher, Blanche Hartman, because of how much Blanche loved to do service. And Blanche was also the main seamstress of the Zen Center, where she taught many people how to make rakusu and how to make okesa. And Zenju loves ceremony, so. There was a good article in the recent magazine, Yes magazine. You heard that? Yes, I have. On Ruth King, who is a Dharma teacher out of the Insight Meditation group at Spirit Rock. And the article was entitled, "A Journey from Rage to Mindfulness." She's a Black woman who grew up in South Central Los Angeles, right? And a family of 8 kids raised mostly by her mom. And she was raised in a Baptist church, where her mother was the choir director and pianist. And her mother was intensely involved in the Black Power movement and civil rights. Ruth says her mother would often sing a song when she was getting ready to do something important. Give me a clean heart so that I may serve you. And this became a mantra for Ruth. Give me a clean heart so I can serve you. I think when we're sitting zazen, we're working on letting go and cleaning, don't you think? Letting go of clutter and cleaning. A clean heart. Her father was killed in a jealous rage by his girlfriend, and she attended his funeral in the midst of the Watts riots in the 60s. Tough times. So she grew up in a really tough neighborhood. So she had a lot of rage, a lot of rage. And interesting, at 27, she had to have open heart surgery. She had a mitral valve prolapse. And she said that, you know, this rage was actually killing her inside and outside. So she started learning about, what'd she do? She trained in organizational development and consulting Fortune 500 companies on diversity and and some other things. But she was asked by Jack Kornfield to come and join. Actually, she met another Black woman who was a teacher at Spirit Rock, who invited her to come join a small group of women that was working on wisdom teachings, training, wisdom training. And she found it very helpful, and then Jack Kornfield asked her to come to a 2-year training to become a mindfulness teacher and also a Buddhist teacher to learn about both of those. So she wrote a couple of books. The first one was Healing Rage, Women Making Inner Peace Possible. And the second book was Mindful of Rage, Transforming Racism from the Inside Out. And I bring her up because she came up with these, she calls universal laws of nature, of being, that I thought would be helpful for us. She says that these 3 universal laws is what she practices in addition to mindfulness, and they are: nothing in life is personal, permanent, or perfect. Nothing in life is personal, permanent, or perfect. Boy, that's a good one, huh? And then she says you can ask yourself this question. Just kind of pause. That pause is critical. Where in my heart, mind, body am I stuck? Can I adjust to facilitate flow? Can I open up one or two? Can I open up to the system, not just for my own self-interest, but for all to function well? She gives this story about her father being a plumber, and one day he showed her, before a house went up, all the interconnecting, you know, lines and everything. And so she always has that vision of, you know, where is something stuck? Where is in my heart, mind, or body am I stuck? It's a good question to ask every now and then. So, and then also another good thing to ask is how I am thinking and feeling contributing to suffering or to freedom? Is how I am thinking and feeling contributing to suffering or to freedom? It's another good question to ask. The other thing I have been doing is I took a haiku workshop, also sponsored by Upaya, and they had 4 outstanding presenters: Clark Strand, Kaz Tanahashi, Natalie Goldberg, and Kwame Alexander. And Joan Halifax was also there. And they were talking about haiku, which I love. Well, I want to write haiku because my grandfather on my mother's side, which I just, we found out like 10 years ago, was a haiku poet. And he even had a haiku name. In Japan, I guess you have a haiku name if you're a haiku poet. And his name was Jun Setsu, which means spring snow. That's all I know about him. I have not seen, there's no evidence of his poetry being kept anywhere. We just found the letter he had written to my grandmother while he was incarcerated in World War II camp, prison camp in Honolulu. So that, the idea that my grandfather wrote haiku is so, I don't know, I think he's here. That's why I took this workshop. And haiku, Clark was telling us, it's meant actually for humor also, not only, for poignancy or beauty, but humor. And it's meant to be written in a group, actually. They had haiku groups. They wrote haiku together. And that it's constantly reinventing itself. So Natalie wrote the book, 3 Simple Lines, and she read a haiku by Busan, which inspired her so much she went to Japan on a pilgrimage to his grave. She's a writer, so she likes to make pilgrimages to great writers' graves, which is kind of like Zen folks. I would love to go, like we did, Julie and I went to Eiheiji, had to make the pilgrimage to Eiheiji to see Dogen's temple. It was fabulous. We should do this again sometime. I wouldn't mind going again. Anyway, she read this haiku by Busan. Ah, grief and sadness. The fishing line trembles in the autumn wind. Ah, grief and sadness. The fishing line trembles in the autumn wind. And in haiku too, you have to go beyond your discursive mind. You have to drop down into something intimate be the moment. And she said this, she said, we should have all majored in history because it keeps repeating and repeating itself. When she said that, I just felt like bursting out crying. So sad. She says, active mindfulness is not an attachment to the present, but letting go of it. Integrating the infinite now. This seems like poetry to me. She's a poet. Active mindfulness is not an attachment to the present, but letting go of it, integrating the infinite now. Taking a vow to poetry, underneath discursive thinking, something else matters. There's an attentiveness that integrates all of the past, all of the present, and all of the future. When we dance hula, that's what we're doing. We're integrating the ancestors of the past through our dance and the present in this body and those to come in the future. Here's one that I tried to write. Trying to use that 575 form, you know, Clark Strand is really big on the 575. Natalie is more a free form haiku person, so. Unseasonably wild breeze jostling my hair, is this climate change? I just wrote it, you know, in March 5th. I was walking around, it was so warm that day, right? Wild. Unseasonably wild breeze jostling my hair, is this climate change? And then there's some really fun where kids wrote, last day of school, the new boy offers to take the turtle home. Last day of school, the new boy offers to take the turtle home. Here's a more modern one. Cutting an onion for my lunch, tears streaming down for the world. Cutting an onion for my lunch, tears streaming down for the world. Bodhisattva vow. Yet again they have returned, bright daisies in spring. Bodhisattva vow. Yet again they have returned, bright daisies in spring. Tamar Enoch wrote that. Beyond language, deeper than words, that's the space I live in now. Beyond language, deeper than words, that's the space I live in now. And Kaz Tanahashi mentioned that Soen Roshi was a great haiku poet. And he's on our altar. He was one of my Zumi Roshi's teacher, a Rinzai priest. And let me see if I can find some of his haiku. Oh my God, where is it? Yes, he did. Oh, I think, this one here. Here's Soen Roshi. Gratitude, tears melting into mountain snow. Gratitude, tears melting into mountain snow. Another one, a nun has come to visit. Now in the moonlight, how bright the icicles. A nun has come to visit. Now in the moonlight, how bright the icicles. And disappearing snow on mountain peak unfurls a rainbow. Disappearing snow on mountain peak unfurls a rainbow. then there was Kwame Alexander, this Black poet, writer, who's alive, and Jason Poole, our friend, knows him, because I was like, have you heard of Kwame Alexander? He's fantastic. And he said one of his teachers was Sonia Sanchez, and this is one of her haiku. Walking in Mississippi, I hold the stars between my teeth. Walking in Mississippi, I hold the stars between my teeth. And he mentioned that Julius Lester wrote this haiku for Rosa Parks. Doing nothing was the doing, the clean flame of her gaze carved by a camera flash. Doing nothing was the doing, the clean flame of her gaze carved by a camera flash. And Kwame Alexander is such amazing. He writes young people's, for young adults, books, graphic novels. He was so warm, you know, just like relating. There were like 500 people on the on the workshop, and he's like, he's in the living room here with you, so relational and so warm. So any questions? I've kind of gone through a lot of different things. Yeah. Oh, maybe a microphone. Where's the microphone? Oh, yes, yes, yes.
It's not so much a question as an observation. I think it's so funny that you brought up Kensho today, because yesterday when I was driving home, I had like this moment of clarity that I kind of felt percolating since our first session in September. And, you know, I'm sure you know, and probably a lot of you, I always have all these questions upon questions and questions of things. And usually when I asked June, she got to the point where she's like, don't worry about it. And, you know, and mom says, no, you go ask dad. So I go ask other Sangha members the question, and they would always go, and a vague response, you know, like an appropriate response. And I was like, is this like the emperor of has no clothes of religions? Is everybody, is this anything? And this moment of clarity I had made all those questions unimportant. It didn't even matter, they weren't answered. And I got out of my car and was like beaming like a lunatic. And my neighbor was on a bench smoking a cigarette, and she said hi, which was a mistake that she made, because she's like, how are you? And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to tell you, this poor woman who, you know, we're friendly, but I don't think we even know each other's names. And I was like, I had this moment in meditation that, and she was like, well, what happened? And I was like, and I couldn't explain it to her, because it's not that people don't have answers, or it wasn't that I didn't have an answer for her, but it truly is, when you experience it, you'll experience it, you know? And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't tell you. And like, it was just, I don't know, it was really cool.
Beyond words.
Yeah, really. It's a body, mind, like thought. It's, I don't know, it was really cool. And I think it's just really funny that you brought that up today. So thank you.
So, right. So, in Zen, I mean, that, you know, it's great when those little moments of clarity happen, but, you know, we can also get stuck there, right? Like, oh, I haven't had one of these for ages. What's going on with me, you know? So it's just something to be aware of, right? So, yeah. Yes, Jeremy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for going into some of the explanations of the service and the bows and things like that. I think it's interesting for me because I think when I first started meditating, I wanted to drop any sort of formality or what felt like kind of old school uh, rituals. But it's interesting, like the more I do, I think especially being a part of the community, I think, not to say I'm 100% in, but the more I do it, the more it seems like there's something there. And even the way you've kind of explained it, and with this just kind of spiritual realm, you know, the unseen, that gives it some context that actually resonates with me. So I have a feeling that might continue to kind of resonate more. So anyway, I appreciate, because sometimes I think I kind of had like just sort of a kind of like a reaction, you know, based on my own history and conditioning, but kind of understanding it more, I think helps see what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I really appreciated this book, because she articulates a lot of the things that haven't really been articulated. But yeah, I totally go, right, yeah, absolutely. And what a beautiful thing to slow down, to notice this sanctuary here, that you become the sanctuary. And so when you leave, you're taking the sanctuary with you wherever you are. Right? There's no separation.
Might as well just ask this here. Do you know how we can access those talks from Upaya, the 3 talks that you mentioned?
Yes, you just go to their website, and they're all free, really. They ask for a contribution. If you can make one, great. But if not, they're available, and you'll find it. Yeah, yeah. So the second talk will be the 27th at noon, after Sunday morning Zen. Perfect timing. Um, there's some, you know, Japanese have, the Zen masters were famous for having a death poem, right? Their last poem before they died, and haiku people as well. So here are a couple of them. I shift my pillow closer to the full moon. I shift my pillow closer to the full moon. And a second one. Like cherry blossoms dancing with the passing wind, my shattered hopes. Like cherry blossoms dancing with the passing wind, my shattered hopes. Roshi always said, there's no hope, give it up. There's no hope. Oh, yeah. I've been, you know, Linda's not here. She's bringing our lunch, so I'm just going to talk a little bit more, all right? What? Oh, you need to go. You can go. Okay, Mark. Yes, okay. Yes. Tuesday night. What is today? Thursday, right? We had our big concert, the International Women's Day concert at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church that, you know, 9 of my hula students have been practicing hard for. And it was really a wonderful evening. It was really a wonderful evening. Yeah, it started out with a beautiful welcome by the minister there. I don't know her name, but she's a woman, tall, blonde, dignified, right? And she just gave a beautiful talk about the church there that actually in 2018 had a big fire there. So they had, when they renovated, they did some changes. They made the space a little bit bigger so they could have performances in there. And the acoustics, they were initially, when the church was built, I forget how long ago, they were very cognizant about the acoustics in there, so the sound, and it was really great in there. And she was happy to have everyone there, of course. So Christine Steyer, I just have to say a word about her. She was the main organizer of this event, and she's a member here at the center. She's come to Sesshin before. She says she's going to make another Sesshin this year. She says it really helps her tremendously. She's a soprano with a beautiful voice. And what was really moving to me was she talked about that opera she is doing this summer with kids called Future Perfect. And in it, they have kids singing. They're actually doing a call for kids right now to try out for the different parts. And she's been working on this for 5 years, going into the schools and asking kids to write from prompts. And so they're using the writings in the opera. And this one, she put in song. A 16-year-old wrote she said they didn't even have to edit it, this poem here that she put to song, and it's called The Universe Sings. A 16-year-old, Christina Lee. The Universe Sings. Every star is a note. Every solar system a new scale, a different arrangement of the patterns. The song is sometimes harmonious, painted in nebulas and nuclear fusion, burning 1,000 different colors, singing the song of birth of atoms, commingling and building something new for the first time or the seventh millionth. Sometimes the song is dissonant, all sharps and flats, banging out off key as a giant collapses into a speck, as the beautiful 1,000 colors implode into a pinpoint black hole, too dense to hold a tone, or fragments off into a supernova. The universe sings its song, beautiful or not, but who is there to listen? So this is going to be some opera, and they are performing it in a state-of-the-art new theater in Austin, 1 mile away, maybe even less than 1 mile away. I've not been to that theater, but I'm looking forward to it very much, June 20-something. So I hope a lot of you attend coming up. Any thoughts or questions? I'm listening for our lunch to arrive. Kathy, how are you doing? Nice to see you.
Good. I appreciated
you're muted, Kathy.
Oh, am I? It says I'm not.
Why is she muted?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
She can't.
hear you. They can't hear you in the Zendo, apparently.
I wonder why they can't.
Oh, sorry, we got it. Would you repeat now? We got it. It was low.
Oh, okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Well, I really appreciated the haiku. That was just beautiful to hear. And I wrote down those questions. I thought, where in my heart, mind, body am I stuck? I mean, really, really wonderful questions. Is how I am thinking and feeling contributing to suffering or to freedom? Those are great questions to ask. So I look forward to also just to checking out the book that you mentioned and the Upaya talks. So thank you. And I hope Linda's okay and that the food gets there soon.
Well, I guess we can also rest.